Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Yes, Honourable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think noticeably, my colleagues on the other side are not in the House. They are not in the chamber. The Minority Leader called to inform me that they were having a press conference and that they will be with us at 11 o'clock. We have waited and it's about 11:30 now, and that is why we are meeting. I believe they may join us subsequently, because I realize that many of them have their files in the chamber. Perhaps when they see that we are doing the preliminary issues, they may curtail whatever they are doing and join us. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
So, Leader, what do you advise we do? We have waited for 1.5 hours, and they're still not here. So we are ready to proceed, unless you have.
Mr. Speaker, I believe we can go on and deal with the preliminary issues.
Very well.
Say the prayers, and we can go on as the order of business is provided for in part 8 of our standing orders. So we deal with the preliminary issues, and if they join us, fine. If they don't, Parliament must go on.
Very well. Let's go on with the vote and proceedings. Vote and proceedings of the sitting on Tuesday, 30th January 2018. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Very well. Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 30th January, is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. We have an official report. Very well. There's no official report, so we'll proceed to item number 3, urgent question. Urgent question standing in the name of John Kwabena Bless Oti, honorable member from Kwanta North, and is to be asked of the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
I haven't recognized you. Kindly wait. I called Oti Bless. I saw him when I entered. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker. My colleague is on his way here, but for the sake of time, I would. He's asked me to ask the question on his behalf. With your indulgence. Oh, look at this here.
Honorable Oti Bless, you may ask your urgent question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development whether the districts that were created in 2007 without seed money will take off what will be without seed money for takeoff will be considered in 2018 formula. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with respect to the formula, the Common Fund Administrator is still working on the 2018 formula and will soon submit it to the House for approval. Mr. Speaker, seed money is usually set for construction of offices of new assemblies. The ministry is aware of the challenge and has commenced a process for constructing of offices for all assemblies that do not have office accommodation, including those created in 2007. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, what informed your decision to recommend for the creation of more new districts when the old ones have not been well catered for?
Your question is refused. If you want to ask another question, you can, but your follow-up question must be related to the urgent question you asked.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I want to know when exactly these districts will be catered for, since most of them are facing challenges, especially my district and Kwanta North district.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you will recall that in the 2017 formula, 2% was allocated for construction of offices. And we have continued to phase out the construction of offices, including assemblies that were created in 2012. For 2017, 20 such contracts were awarded for construction of district assembly offices. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. But the Honourable Minister, I'll follow up and, to ensure that when the formally comes to Parliament, Nkwantanop will be catered for. Thank you for the opportunity.
But what took you so long between 2007 and now to ask this question? Yes, Honourable Member for Kumbungo.
Very good for Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask the Minister if she could give us indication as to how many districts are involved as far as the non-payment of seed money is concerned. How many are there?
Honourable Minister, how many districts are outstanding with respect to seed money?
Mr. Speaker, for the 207 districts, 28 were created, 4 had officers, 4 more were awarded, and we've awarded the remaining of the, we've awarded another 20, including some of the districts created in 2012. Of the districts created in 2012, they are at various levels of construction. 13 are completed, and the remaining 48 minus 13, that's 35. The remaining 35 are under various stages of construction, Mr. Speaker.
Leadership? Very well. Yes, Honourable Majority Leader.
Speaker, I want to inquire from the Minister how many of the districts that were created between 2001 and 2009 were left unattended to.
Honourable Minister, do you have that information available?
Mr. Speaker, 24 districts.
I thought you had declined. That's why I went to the Majority Leader. Follow up to the very well.
Minister, do you want to name the 24 districts?
Yes.
And do you also want to further share with this House that new districts, including the newly created ones just yesterday, will benefit from seed money and infrastructure support?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the districts that were left out were Echumakwauma, Sechiri Central, Asunafo South, Nkoranza North, Sunyani West, Gumua East, Ekwapim North, Brim South, Binduri, Lambuse Kane, Biakoya, Akontombra, Ashama, Pandai, Cherponi, Paga, Elemble, and Agona East. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The second verse was that, will the formula for 2018 take care of the newly created districts?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we will be, as a policy issue, we will be requesting that an allocation is made just like 2017, an allocation was made to ensure the completion of the districts that were created in 2012. We would also be putting it as a policy issue. And if it's approved by this House, that will be the case, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you for attending upon the House. You are discharged. Statements. Yesterday, there were two statements all bordering on Fulani menace in the Sechafram Plains area. Well, first was from the MP for Nsuta Kwamambe Poso. So I invite the Honorable Member for Nsuta Kwamambe Poso to read a statement.
Most grateful, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to make a statement on the movements of Fulani herdsmen from Agogo to Secretary Central District and the inappropriate killing of two farmers on Wednesday, 24th January 2018. Mr. Speaker, issues on transhumance related conflicts has been in the news for quite a long time in Ghana. Transhumance simply means the movement of people with their livestock in search of water and food. In other words, what the transhumans herder basically need is grass and water for its animals. The big question has always been, why should someone's animals be allowed into our country? Mr. Speaker, the problem of invasion by alien Fulani herdsmen has been going on for many years, and there have been attempts by various governments over the past years to find lasting solution to the problem, but to no avail. It is obvious that many Ghanaians are worried about increasing reports of gross misconducts of some of the nomadic Fulani herdsmen. Mr. Speaker, current reports about these individuals who have been allowed to enter and live in Ghana at will, supposedly in the name of Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, protocols on free movement of people and goods and livestock are worrying. Mr. Speaker, measures need to be taken to deal decisively with the situation once and for all. Though the negative impact of overgrazing by local herds of cattle may appear small, the influx of transhuman livestock may predispose the country to drastic overgrazing and damage to soil that will be difficult to reverse. Mr. Speaker, another negative effect is the fact that these nomadic cattle constitute a potential means of introducing certain diseases, pathogens to livestock in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the Secretary Central District is located in the northern part of Ashanti region and shares boundaries with 5 districts, namely Mampong Municipality, Ejura Secretary Amantin Atebu, Secretary Farm Plains, and Secretary East District. Mr. Speaker, the Secretary Central District covers a total land area of about 1,564 square kilometers and has about 105 settlements, with about 70% being rural communities. The estimated district population in 2008 was 75,969, with a growth rate of 1.4%. Mr. Speaker, the Secretary Central District is known for its untapped agricultural potentials, which is in the Farm Plains portion of the district. Here, agricultural land constitutes about 60% of the entire geographical land. Despite the district underutilizing its agricultural potentials, it is one of the leading producers of maize, yam, cassava, plantain, oil palm, citrus, with about 75% of the population found in the agricultural prospect. This makes the district one of the food baskets of the Ashanti region and the nation at large. Mr. Speaker, in an attempt to monitor the activities of these Fulanis, on the 5th January 2018, I, in the company of 8 police officers, took a visit to the following towns: Odumasi, Nkujua, Mentuka, Ohimadida, and Jediako. As Jediako, I saw herds of cattle destroying farm produce and causing harm to water bodies. Mr. Speaker, of late, Fulani herdsmen have taken the center stage in the media, among which are the following: the shooting of 3 military officers and a policeman, leading to the substance of serious injuries at Agogo on Monday, 8 January 2018. The killing of 2 police officers at Sekirafan Place District on Thursday, 11 January 2018. According to reports posted by Majoricom on Thursday, 25 January 2018, captioned, and I quote, herdsmen-farmer clashes which in Suta, 2 men, 7 cattle killed, and a renewed attack, unquote. According to these reports, 2 residents of Jediako near Nsuta and Sekira Central District of the Ashanti region have been shot dead by a suspected nomadic herdsmen. 60-year-old Kofi Usu and 75-year-old Kwaku Aniboy were among a group of residents allegedly chasing out the nomadic herdsmen from the town. They received multiple gunshot wounds from AK-47 Walden Fulanis who had been fleeing the government-backed Operation Carleg in Agogo. The lifeless bodies of the 2 elderly men, riddled with AK-47 bullets, lay about 50 kilometers apart from each other on Wednesday, 24th January 2018. Mr. Speaker, these Fulanis who were recently chased out from Agogo have now found a comfortable haven or abode in my constituency, in Suta Kwama Piposo. Nicodemus Boateng, who was among the group attempting to chase out the nomads, told Inshira FM that the local farmers ran for their lives when the herdsmen indiscriminately shot from unknown location. Mr. Speaker, people in my constituency are devastated and are unable to go to their farms. Market women cannot go to the villages to buy foodstuffs and bring them to their local market centers. Mr. Speaker, this may translate into temporary surge in food prices in the district. In a nutshell, Fulani's pose serious threats to agriculture, food security, and national security. Mr. Speaker, in the short term, I propose the following. Flashing at the herdsmen will not, and I repeat, flashing at the herdsmen will not solve the killings completely, but there is a need for our security officers to confiscate their appropriate weapons, and security officers may escort them to the border towns to enable them go to their countries of origin. Mr. Speaker, in long term, identification of the herdsmen with their country of origin by painting their cattle with the country's colors. Specific locations within the district should be allotted to their cattle for grazing. The cattle of these Fulani herdsmen should be tagged. Fulanis accompanying their herds should be given specific areas for the cattle to graze, and their district assemblies or municipal assembly may provide infrastructure for these Fulani herdsmen and be made to pay for the cost involved. Mr. Speaker, the ECOWAS protocol on livestock and transhumance, which Ghana has signed on to, allows herdsmen within the West African sub-region free access to continue in the sub-region with their livestock, which include cattle, provided they have valid health certificate covering their animals and use specific routes or corridors assigned to them by the state on specific grazing reserves. The protocol does not, Mr. Speaker, I repeat, the protocol does not warrant destruction of farmlands by the alien herdsmen or violation of country's laws with impunity. The protocol does not prevent governments of member states from expelling transhuman herdsmen together with their cattle, whose actions are considered threat to national security. On this note, Mr. Speaker, I would like to extend my condolences to the deceased families. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity given me to present this statement to the floor of the House.
Will the honourable member for Sechara please want to comment?
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to make this statement. Mr. Speaker, one issue.
I'm not asking you to read another statement. That you can also make comment because I get the facts are the same. But if there are specific areas in your constituency you wish to draw the attention of the House to, so that we don't have two statements.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I think it's February 2017, a similar statement was made in this House together with honorable member for Agogo. And I learned that the Defense Committee called us for discussion. And then the report was submitted to the Parliament. And we find throughout the last year, we find them on the business report. But when it was getting to the time of the budget, we didn't find it again. So we want to know whether that report, what is happening to that report? If there's any other report there or the report is there, why are we still coming here to give a statement? Well, when we give the statement, it looks as if that the Parliament will act upon that, but nothing happens on this statement. So I feel that it's better you refer to the old statement that we made, and the appeal could be made. What's happening to that? Mr. Speaker, for saying this, and I think we need to understand that to rear a cattle, then you must be ready to bear the cost. You need to find a land and then fencing it and put your cattle there so that it won't trespass someone's property. I think what we have seen from there that livestock is also another farming where it's likewise like a crop farming. So it's better we advise our people, a community, to look for a land, and then they do as it's been in the European country where they have a ranching, and then they just feed them with a special feed, so that there won't be another problem to other farmers. With this view, Mr. Speaker, I support the statement.
Honourable member for Asante Achim North. Asante Achim North, right? Okay. Let me hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. May I commend my colleague for making this excellent statement. Mr. Speaker, we know that this problem has stayed with us over years. It appears to be perennial. Every time that we have a dry season, this problem comes again. And as my colleague rightly referred to, there was a statement of the House, there was a committee of the House, there is a report from the committee of the House, there are proposals made to the committee in respect of promoting a private member's bill. The expectation is that we will adopt the report and move on with it. Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, while waiting for the legislation to be passed on this subject matter, I personally have experience of this problem, and I have designed a solution mechanism which I have rolled out to the benefit of my community. It is probably not the lasting or the final solution to the problem, but in the meantime, it's given us some relief. Nevertheless, it comes out with also some huge cost on the assembly and even on the national pace. So if we found a solution to this problem once and for all, I'm sure all of us will benefit. But to look at the problem in this perspective, we have to consider it as the category as purely business. In Ghana, we have a land use layout of the country. Some people are saying give them land. Others are saying let them stay. Let them stay where? If you look at the land use layout of the country, there are places designated for crop farming, other places designated for cattle rearing. You cannot combine the two in one place. Cattle and crops cannot live together, particularly so when we don't have any control over cattle rearing. It is unjustified for people to think that somebody can grow his crops and other person will feed on the crops for the purpose of growing its cattle. Both are separate businesses which ought to be protected by the law. And if you take your cattle to somebody's land to graze on somebody's crops, that is a criminal matter. You are destroying somebody's property. But invariably, most of the time, you don't even find these people because they do these things in the night where the farm owner will not be there. So, Mr. Speaker, once we find a lasting solution to that, we also have to let the cattle owners also know that when you want to do your business, develop your business plan first and find where to locate. It is not the responsibility of government to find places for people who do their own businesses. These are private businessmen. And they should understand that this is what they do for their living. And therefore go through the process of creating a business entity and also know that for you to feed your cattle, you need to spend money on feeding the cattle. They rather want to maximize their profits by using other people's crops to feed the animal. So that's purely criminal. If they possess arms, these are also criminal matters. And if they also shoot, these are criminal matters. They must be dealt with within the law. Mr. Speaker, in our place, we have apprehended some of them, and they are before the courts of law. They will go through prosecution. If they are found guilty, they will be convicted, and appropriate sentences meted out to them. Mr. Speaker, this kind of ways.
Honourable Member, before you resume your seat, I understand that there are two sets of herdsmen we are dealing with.
Yes.
There are those who reside within the Front Plain zone, and there are those who are passing through the nomads. Which ones are you proposing your program?
Mr. Speaker, both of them do the same thing. Those who live in the Front Plains, they graze their animals on people's farms. Those who pass through also do the same, except that those who pass through is difficult to identify them. But at least those who graze on people's farms, sometimes you can find them. But the offenses they commit are the same. The proposed bill has designed also cattle routes. So if it's adopted, and we have looked around Africa to find benchmarks. So if we are able to adopt the report and follow it up with the draft bill, probably some of these things, because if you are even transporting cattle, we have designated routes to use. And there are certain things that you have to use, like you need to find a veterinary officer to give the animals a clean bill of health, and you need to consult with the local police as you even go through for us to be able to identify the cattle and their numbers. You need authorization from a district assembly that will hold them so that you can be surcharged with some element of taxes. And you see, the situation will come to normalcy. And again, we need to know where you are so that if there is any offense committed, we know who to surcharge the person with. So, Mr. Speaker, as he rightly said, my colleague, let us look at that which was done last year and improve upon it. Otherwise, next year we'll come here and somebody else will also bring another statement. It will generate another committee. We will do the same thing again. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to inform you that the situation in Agogo is very calm.
The Honourable Member for.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to contribute to the statement moved by my colleague from Nsuta Kwamang. Before I get to the substance of the statement, I wish also to express my sympathies to all those who lost their lives recently as a result of this exercise. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, this situation has been in this country since the 1980s, when I was working with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in the Volta region. And the Operation Cow Leg has been started since then. But it appears that we are not really having a handle on this situation. I would like to say that, first of all, to make a comment, the use of the word Fulani may not be appropriate in these circumstances. I would suggest we use the name nomadic herdsmen, because this issue came up at the ECOWAS Parliament recently, where some members of Parliament are also Fulanis, and they objected to the ethnic profiling. It is because the nomadic herdsmen have other tribes, like the Fulbeys and the Tuaregs. They are a mix of ethnic groups that do this nomadic exercise. So that is my first comment. The second comment is that Ghana is a member of ECOWAS, and we are a signatory to the Treaty on Transhumance as far back as 1989. And as much as I appreciate the present exercise to kind of contain the situation immediately, I think we should also be seen to be working towards a long-term solution of this problem alongside our member countries in the sub-region. Indeed, presently, Nigeria is having a serious problem of nomadic herdsmen who have been destroying the crops and raping crops of farmers, raping women in the fields. Currently, as I speak, there is an emergency meeting going on with the member states of ECOWAS on transhumance, how to cooperate in order to solve the problem. Mr. Speaker, I think that going forward, we need to work together. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture has designed some roadmap in order to contain this situation. It is found in our policy, the Livestock Development Policy, which was published in April 2016. And on pages 75 and 76 of this document, it stated policy issues on adoption of transhumance under the ECOWAP. We have already established some paddocks in Kwahu North and Kwahu South to contain some of these nomadic herdsmen on seasonal basis. These paddocks have been handed over, as far as I remember, to the district assemblies to operate. Presently, I'm not sure how the operation is going on, but it is a start to enable other district assemblies to also identify and allocate lands together with the landlords for this particular activity. We should be able to identify specific areas in this country where these animals can be contained. And also, the ministry has established designated entry points, especially in the northern borders. I know that of Hamile. I also know that of Zikumbu, not Kumbu. I'll just remember very soon. We have established northern entry points, and there are rules for entry of livestock into this country. So I sympathize with the present situation. I sympathize with those who have lost their lives and those who have lost their crops. But going forward, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to work together with our member countries in ECOWAS as far as the transhumance protocol is concerned, which we have signed since 1989, and we have made some progress in establishing paddocks and designating entry points so that together we can find a lasting solution to this problem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. With the leadership, And with the leadership, I want to understand why a report which was presented last year is still not on the order paper as yet. So, you're a member of the Business Committee. I'd like to hear you on that also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying that the report, partly the challenge that we continue to have is as a result of this House not also taking very proactive steps to ensure that the committee that was set up to investigate this and report to the House for us to be able to debate the issues and probably suggest policy to executives to be able to streamline these activities. I will partly blame this House or the last Parliament for failing to be able to do that, because if we had done that, probably some concrete steps could have taken to avert some of these challenges. I'm told that the committee was supposed to be facilitated to be able to travel around, which this House was not able to do. So I will say that this Parliament currently must take the necessary steps to ensure that we recompose that committee and be able to resource it to be able to deal with this. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy my colleague in ECOWAS Parliament has said that the use of the word Fulani is really, really misleading, because crime is crime, regardless of who is involved. We have succeeded in creating an impression out there that one, Fulanis are not Ghanaians, Fulanis are those who are raping, Fulanis are those who are destroying other people's farm. That is really wrong, Mr. Speaker. Yes, in every group you have miscreants and outliers. It may be a very bad example. Recently in Kumasi, when the young men, about 4 of them, were shown raping a young lady, was there Fulanis? But that is a crime, and the state is dealing with it as a crime. When you go to whether Makwala or Abusuakai, we have our compatriots Ghanaians telling us that Chinese and other persons are there trading against the laws of this country. That is a crime that we have to deal with. But Mr. Speaker, the initial impression that we have succeeded today is what is creating the problem. Because, Mr. Speaker, I can say many of us sitting in this chamber also own cattle. But we are not Fulanis. But we own cattle. At least if I don't know any other person, I know myself. Mr. Speaker, and my colleague from Adaklu is telling me you also own cattle. But Mr. Speaker, the challenge we have is that when our compatriots see this as a business, they take the necessary steps to acquire land legitimately from the chiefs and landowners. Other citizens think that they must not be there. We need to watch that carefully, because people acquire the land legitimately. They have all the titles to it, yet others think that those animals must not be there. We are forgetting that they are running it like a business. And the news that has been going on, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately has been one-sided. Just last 2 weeks, the herdsmen community in Ghana decided to hold a press conference. And Mr. Speaker, they were showing pictures how some of their men and women were slaughtered like animals. And nobody wants to talk about that. Are they lesser human beings? They are not. How do you say that in trying to curb this, you just go in and you are shooting animals indiscriminately? Mr. Speaker, to the extent that the pictures were shown, you see animals lying all over. These are investments for others. And many of them own the land where their animals are. They bought it from the chiefs. And they have titles to it. So we are dealing with those who are straying from where they are supposed to be and entering into other people's farms. That is a legitimate concern. It is a concern we need to deal with. because we cannot allow people, in time to protect their investment, destroy others. But we need to be able to separate the chaff from the grain. But we lump all and we want to treat it as one case. That is the challenge that we are all having. And Mr. Speaker, that is why I want us to take the suggestion from President Kufuor that, look, let's take this issue very seriously. Let's dedicate land where we can rent it to even those nomadics who pass through during the dry season, because we can make money out of it. I heard my colleague telling about, is it the business of government to provide space for such people, because these are private investment. Free zone. Interestingly, my colleague was heading the free zones. The free zone is also a business concept that government decided to dedicate an area and say this is a free zone where you can build a factory. The meat demand in this country, Mr. Speaker, we are not able to produce animals to meet the meat demands in this country. We are always importing it from our neighboring countries. That is a business. That is a serious business that we need to look in, and we need to disabuse the minds of our citizens. Let them go into it as a business, because, for example, where mine are, they are restrained. I own the land, I got it, and I make sure that they are restrained. And when I finish harvesting my maize, and during the dry season, we have created a channel where they are able to move from one end of the farm to where we cultivate maize, so that they can go and graze on the maize field. This is things that we can show others. You can do it, but let's not create the impression the moment you see any person with the cattle, these are the criminals. These are the people who are destroying people's farm. And then people take undue advantage and want to attack them. Because, Mr. Speaker, in the very area like Agogo, there's a concept by the young men. They call it cow hunting. They deliberately take guns and go into the bush, shooting other people's animals, so that they will bring it to town and sell to the Toba people. They see it as the hunting. They call them, these are people's investment, and you just organize and take guns that you are going to shoot, kill, and come and sell. And you expect those who have their investment will fold their hands and thank you for doing that. Both are crimes. And just as we are investigating those who are straying into other people's farms, we should be able to investigate those young men who have turned it their business to go and deliberately attack innocent animals so that they can come and sell into town. Because that's also a crime. If we are able to deal with the society in a just manner, so that those who are committing crime are punished, whether they are herdsmen, whether they are young men who decide to attack innocent cattle, then you can have a very peaceful environment to be able to deal with this. But if you leave it as it is and give them a general tag, give them a bad name so that you can hang them, obviously you continue to have these kind of challenges that we are having. Mr. Speaker, recently when they had the press conference, one of the Fulani was heard saying that we've been hearing people saying that we've destroyed their farm, we've raped their women. We want those evidence to be provided, just as we are providing the evidence of how our people have been slaughtered, how our people have been killed. Because we are not denying the fact that there could be criminals within us, just as all of us will admit. There's no constituency sitting here, 275, that will say, as for me in my constituency, there are no criminals. That is why we all strive to provide police stations, support the police, the national security, the BNI, to be able to maintain peace and order. I think that we need to see this as an issue that requires fairness. We treat the herdsmen with fair, and we treat the citizens or the farmers also with fairness, but not to be one-sided. And all we do is we are hearing one side and we refuse to listen to the other side with the notion that they are not Ghanaians. For those who care to know, some of them have lived in this country for over 300 years. And there are several generations here.
You mean there are people living now who have lived for 300 years? Some
of the Fulanis that are living in Abuku. Mr. Speaker, they have lived several generations.
Yes. So they are progenies of or ancestors of some people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's nobody living now who is 300 years.
No, Mr. Speaker, the challenge we all have is that even their offspring, 5 generations, 7 generations, are still lumped and seen like their great-grandfathers who came into this country. That is the problem we are all having. We continue to see them like their great-great-grandparents who came and continue to tag them as foreigners. That is a challenge, because they are no longer foreigners, because they have stayed here several generations, they've intermarried and what have you. And Mr. Speaker, it is a big challenge that as a country we need to find a way of dealing with this dispassionately, because it is a business. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that it is a very lucrative business if you do it and do it very well, because you invest in it right and you will reap the benefit from milk, from the meat, the carcass. So let's not discourage even ordinary Ghanaians who may want to go into it, as because, Mr. Speaker, I have a number, tens of them. If you decide today that this country will not allow cattle grazing, where am I going to take them? I can't take them to my house. I can't put them in my pocket. Obviously, you are going to have a major challenge, because I will not slaughter all of them with the infants that are born today or yesterday, simply because you say there should be no grazing. Let's tune our mind so that we help those who want to do the right thing and then deal with those who are doing the wrong. But the way we are tackling the issue, we are labeling all of them as if all of them are doing the wrong thing, and they don't want to even do the right thing. I think that there are many more among them who want to do the right thing. For those who transit periodically, moving from one country to other, I equally agree we can find a safe zone where they can come and graze at a fee. Because, for example, in Adaklu, I'm told that they have a cattle market where the DC Assembly takes its levy every week from them. Yet, you see people pretending as if these are people who don't even obey rules. Yet they are paying every week to keep their animals there and to sell their animals. So, Mr. Speaker, let's give all the parties the opportunity to do what is right. If we are able to do that, Mr. Speaker, we will see this problem going. Because, Mr. Speaker, when we meet some of the herdsmen, they say that, look, accept us, give us the rules, let us communicate with us, so that we will even help you to be able to deal with the badness among us. Yet, we don't want to listen. The moment you say you are Fulani, you are, after you are gone. You are not supposed to even leave. I don't think that is also right, because even in the ghettos where there are slums, there are a lot of challenges. But we just don't go saying that let's go and bend the whole slum simply because there are some criminals living within the slum. I think that if we approach it this way, and this House must take a very proactive step, let's empower, let's reconstitute the committee, like I said earlier, let's resource them, let them be able to move out so that they will be able to come back with facts that will help us to be able to inform government in whatever it wants to do. Mr. Speaker, let me say that this is a very important time that this statement has come to this House. Let's not lose this opportunity once again. Let's take advantage of the time to be able to deal with this and deal with it once and for all, because it is a major problem in West Africa. But in East Africa, even South Africa, they have more cattle than we do. If you go to their capitals, Gaborone, Leader and I were there, Botswana, there are more cattle than human beings. We saw it, but they've been given an opportunity to be able to keep them in an area where it is money. If you go to South Africa, if you go to East Africa, even Kenya, they have a lot of cattle, but they have a way of dealing with it, so they don't have these periodic challenges. We are pretending that they are not here, we don't want them here, and yet we assume that this program will go. This program will never go until West African countries sit up and do just like others, West African countries have money to deal with this. In Europe and America, even in Asia, they also have cattle, but you hardly hear some of these things. What are they doing right that they don't get this program that we are not doing? Let's learn to do those things so that we get these programs over once and for all. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this statement, and I thank the makers of the statement for bringing the attention of this House to this way. Thank you very much.
Honorable Majority Leader, leadership of the majority.
Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to support a statement ably made by the member for Insuta Kwaman Beposo constituency. Speaker, it is a statement that must be debated dispassionately, not with emotions. I agree at the very outset with the honorable member who gave the indication to us that it is wrongful to lump all the people involved as Fulanis. That indeed is problematic because not all of them are Fulanis. So that itself creates a problem at the very outset. Yes, there are Malians amongst them who may not be Fulanis necessarily. As he said, there are Tuaregs amongst that ethnic group. So to to lump all of them together in one basket and call them Fulanis at the very outset creates a problem. It made to appear as if it is only Fulanis who are committing crimes in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the concept of transhumance, which Ghana has signed on to, really just means the movement of people with their livestock in search of food and water in the main. And usually the migration is from the north towards the south. It has been a phenomenon that has been with us throughout the past several decades. When I was growing up, we had these herdsmen coming down with their cattle. Those days, they were not using trucks to come down. They brought them down and sold them. They followed established roads. The Speaker, that was what was happening those days. Those days, they were not veering into the interior to feed on farmlands. That is the issue that we're talking about. The Speaker, that is the issue that we are talking about. It cannot be right when somebody has spent money to cultivate his farmland, and because you are entitled to your livestock, we think you have the right to feed on the produce. That is at the bottom of it. It is not somebody who wants to rear his cattle. I own some sheep and pigs. I ranch them. I have kept them in a ranch. I have fenced the place. You cannot free range into somebody's farm and say to the person that you have a right to do that. You cannot do that. And that is what is wrong. Mr. Speaker, I witnessed an incident in Nigeria where herdsmen had invaded the farmlands around Kaduna, and when the farmers protested, they shot at them with bows and arrows. And an arrow pierced the eye of a farmer. He needed to be rescued. And they flew him by a helicopter, that was Babangida's time, to the teaching hospital of University of Lagos. It attracted a national brouhaha in Nigeria. It's unacceptable. We know of people who keep livestock. In New Zealand, when I went there, in Australia, they keep ranches. They fence them. And that is where the cattle or the sheep roam and feed themselves. That is what happens there. But here we are allowing free range. And the farmers think that they must be protecting their farmsteads. And the herdsmen also think that their cattle must feed. You can't feed on somebody's farm. You cannot do that. So, Mr. Speaker, we must get to the bottom of this. how do these people enter the country in the first place? There must be defined rules for them, which is what we are not doing. And they enter anyhow because our borders are porous. And when you come here, you are still a foreigner. If you use unapproved rules to enter Ghana, you are a foreigner. Mr. Speaker, that is at the bottom of it. Let's look at ways to attend to this and let nobody kid himself. If there is overgrazing of any particular land, it takes more than 100 years for that land to recoup its fertility. In the meantime, those people will have lost the use of their farmland. And that certainly would also increase poverty amongst them, the farmers, particularly those of them in the countryside. Just one or two people following their cattle, invading farms, feeding on the products, destroying the topsoil, and denying the people, maybe 200 of them, the eternal use of their farmland, and that should be encouraged. I don't think so at all. We should find a way to regulate this. Mr. Speaker, free ranging cannot be part of the equation. It cannot be part of the equation. I agree with the member for Agogo, the Honorable and the Apiakubi, and the chief whip for the minority when they said that Parliament should be proactive. The Speaker, in I think 2013, 2014, this matter happened. Parliament set up a committee, and for 2 years, we refused to provide resources for the committee to foray into the countryside and study the situation and bring us a report. Between 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, Parliament did not do what was required of Parliament. We never resourced the committee that we put together. And for those years, those 4 years, that committee was inactive. Last year, we came to setting up another committee. That committee did some work. They submitted their report. Unfortunately, when we came to debating the report, it got crowded out by the submission of the budget. I think the time has come for us to resurrect it. Dust it. If there are any new developments that the committee may want to add, let them do so and submit it to Parliament, and then we can debate the issues contained in the report. The Speaker, where herdsmen shoot at soldiers and kill them, where they shoot at policemen and kill them, where they shoot at indigents, apart from destroying the farmlands, and kill them, that certainly is a national security issue. Maybe the modus operandi of the security forces themselves need to be questioned. That is, as we have been told, entering an area and firing indiscriminately, slaughtering animals and so on, may not be the best method. We must look at that. If a herdsman has committed an offense, let's go after the person. But to slaughter the cattle certainly is also wrong. Two wrongs wouldn't make a right. That's right. We need to deal with that. Mr. Speaker, I believe that certainly the police and the soldiers who should be protecting us, if, as the President is referred to as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, if the Armed Forces undertake any venture at the command of the President and they are killed, it's an affront to the presidency. It's an affront to the presidency. And those people must be dealt with. There cannot be any question about that. Mr. Speaker, so I think where we are, as I've already alluded to, let us resurrect the report. If there are any additions that must be done, we should deal with it. And whatever the decision of Parliament is in respect of dealing with this matter, And I think we should be very decisive what decision that we determine as a House, what decision that we come to. We must act promptly to save the situation, because it's certainly not doing any good to the image of the country. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the space granted.
Honourable Majority Leader, before you resume your seat, I recall last year a number of times that the order paper showed that a committee was to report. Has the committee finished its work and presented a report to the leadership on, I think it was a joint committee or a committee on defense and interior in respect of Fulani issues? Yes.
Speaker, I do recollect that on occasions the committee members themselves came to plead with us that they had not finished, with the report. Eventually, getting to the presentation of the budget, they said they were about ready. That is what I referred to. Well, the budget period, we couldn't consider it, so we took it off. If they are ready, I do recollect that they even came to show me a draft of that report. If they are ready, the Speaker, they should come to us. If maybe it's still in a draft form, as I said, I saw, they could factor into that report these new developments and submit it to Parliament for us to take a decision on that. The Speaker, that is my position on this.
May I then direct that the chairman of the committee should come and inform the House the stage they have reached with the assignment that we're given tomorrow. So I so direct the chairman of the Committee on Defense and Interior shall report to the House the stage they have reached with respect to the assignment they were giving in the year 2017. At the commencement of public business, item number 5. Honourable Majority Leader, is the committee ready? Yes, Honourable Number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to make some observation, if you could give me the opportunity to.
In respect of this committee, I was asking a question of the.
In respect with the joint caucus meeting that we had yesterday and strengthening
Very well, let me inquire first, then I'll give you the chance, please. Honourable Majority Leader, will the committee be ready to present their report?
Mr. Speaker, item listed as 5, the committee has informed me that they are still working on the report. I'm aware that late last night they were still working. In fact, the committee should be commended for the dexterity that they are showing. They indicated to me at 8:30 that they were going to take dinner and continue their work to close at 12 midnight yesterday. And this morning, they've signaled that because they couldn't complete, they intend to finish up today and then possibly submit the report tomorrow. So I'm hoping that by tomorrow they'll be able to present it. The Speaker, in respect of item number 6, the motion on the performance audit report of the Auditor General on the disposal of government vehicles by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the Ghana Health Service. Again, we gave the Public Accounts Committee some assignment with respect to sanitizing that report and chronicling what exactly ought to be done. Speaker, they are yet to do that. The last one, the other motion on the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of Ghana, public boards, corporations, and other statutory institutions for the year ended 31st December 2015. The committee has informed us that they want to stool down for a brief while because they are doing a few things. Indeed, I'm told that the form and character of that report may also have to be attended to on account of the suggestion that we made in respect of the motion captured as item number 6. So in that regard, we will not be able to take the items listed as 5, 6, and 7 on the other paper.
Very well. Now, Honorable Deputy Whip, can I hear you?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday we had a very good joint caucus meeting. An item that was so discussed was about the security of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, among the issues came the police issue, the fire service issue, and some recruitment that Parliament might have taken. The Marshal was invited to explain into details the outcomes of that recruitment and the processes that recruitment was done. Questions were elicited from members, and I think we had a good discussion and we brought finality to that issue. Then, Mr. Speaker, the next moment was misrepresentation of other members on radio stations commenting on this issue that I think they are misleading the public. And for me, Parliament is a very important institution, and that if both houses comes to a conclusion on matters, I believe that we should make the same representation on radio station and not mislead the public. Honorable Ayariga, Honorable Kwame Governor Abuja were on radio stations and making statements that were not truthful. Statements of misleading the public. After we've had a good joint caucus meeting and the outcomes have been laid bare. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that Parliament must draw the attention of our colleagues who go outside misleading the public when we have a very fruitful discussion and the outcomes are laid before everybody. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
First, I want to hear the leaders before I'll discuss whether anybody remember. You have been mentioned, but what specifically you said has not been told us. I want to hear the leaders about what was discussed in the House and what has happened subsequently. Very well, Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, well, my colleague was right yesterday at the joint caucus meeting. The issue came up briefly, but when he said a finality was said, because I remember very well, Honorable Taylor was asking some other things that we said, oh, we can deal with those things later. Earlier in the morning, yesterday, Mr. Speaker, if you remember, at the leadership meeting, myself and minority leader walked in, and we did ask you, the minority leader, the clerk, a majority leader, and the clerk, and apparently all of you said you were not aware about a private security engagement. So we all thought that was it. But when the Marshal, during the caucus meeting, Marshal came to make the presentation, as it's not a private security essay, but as part of Parliament's additional recruitment to support the Marshal's department, not a private. So it was like in the morning, the question we asked, it was because we didn't have the full details. We asked the wrong question maybe, and an answer was given that they were not a private security that were being engaged. But in that meeting, that was where he said. I remember Honorable Tilabi was asking, how did they recruit them? How was the recruitment done? Did they advertise? How were they able to do the screening? But because we were all hard put with time, I remember, because there were other presentations, the decision was that, look, these details could be dealt with later. Let me admit that when in the morning this thing came, it came as a shock to us. And we said that we were not aware. So colleagues should bear with us. We were going to ask our colleagues opposite whether they also knew about it. And when the majority leader and the clerk were all said that they were not aware, I remember Honorable Ahmed, he said he heard the acting director for public affairs, Kate Hado, making some comments with Kwame Agboza on Radio Gold. So we said that, oh, since the chief executive and the majority are not aware, these are not issues we should bother ourselves with. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, the marshal said they advertised they were going to take, they got approval to take 30, but finally it's 26 that are on training. Let me say, Mr. Speaker, these are decisions that have been taken at Parliamentary Service Board. The House Committee is not in the know. Those of us in the leadership were not in the know, but these are decisions at the Parliamentary Service Board. My worry would have been if there were discussions that involved me or the leadership. Our concern would have been we didn't have enough police here. That was why we needed these ones to augment, because obviously when you come, they give directions, they show you where to park, and they assist the police in managing the issues here. So our colleagues who raised it apparently were not in the caucus meeting. For example, Honorable Mahama Yerga was not in the caucus meeting. Honorable Kwame Agboza, when I engaged him, said that his interview Kwame Agboza said that his interview was earlier in the morning after our caucus meeting. That's why he said that it was earlier in the morning. It was before he granted those interviews, before the caucus meeting, because the caucus meeting after we adjourned. But Mr. Speaker, I think that these are issues that we in the leadership as a house can be able to deal with. We should be able to manage it. Because one, the concerns are that what kind of persons are we engaging? Yesterday, I remember Honorable Taylor asked, has their fingerprint been picked? And the marshal said that they are waiting to finish training. And I thought that was very awkward. Because you need to do their fingerprint, know who you can go and train before you train. You don't finish training somebody before you go and take his fingerprint. All these things came during the joint caucus. But let me say that I will not be in a position to challenge what a Parliamentary Service Board has done. Knowing the rules of this House, that's the highest decision-making body of the House. But I think communication slipping down to all of us was a very necessary one that came delayed. But we need to find a way of dealing with this. As to the individuals, their criminal record should be known to us before they can come in here to do any work. Because if that has not been done, you are training them. When they come, they are supposed to be helping at the car park and what have you. When we all know people are breaking into our cars and stealing items. So, as to the comments our colleagues made on radio and other interviews, I must say I was not aware of it until it was played in the media that we heard it. And subsequently, I tried to engage them, and they said that their worry was that we told them that they were not. Then we said that, oh, at the caucus meeting at the tail end of yesterday, it was discussed, but they were not here. So, Mr. Speaker, this is what I would say so far that we have done, but I believe that we are capable of dealing with this as an in-house thing. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Speaker, thank you, and I thank my colleague for bringing this matter up. I also thank the Minority Chief Whip for the explanation that he has of it. Mr. Speaker, in the morning of yesterday, before Parliament sat, my colleagues had had a caucus meeting. Apparently, this matter had come up at that caucus meeting. I am not aware of whatever they discussed there. But last Thursday at the business committee meeting, we said we're going to discuss this on Tuesday. So when I reported Friday, I said to us that this matter was going to be part of the discussions that we're going to have yesterday, Tuesday. And so my worry is how the caucus will go and discuss something that we had already programmed to discuss on Tuesday, after the close of sitting. And then maybe positions are taken before the House sits and we break into the joint caucus meeting. That's my worry. The second issue has to do with what communication that my colleagues might have made. The Honorable Godwin Zaboja and the Honorable Ayariga. Apparently, they had, as the Chief Whip is saying, they had granted an interview after their caucus meeting. That was before we had the joint caucus. Unfortunately, they were not part of the joint caucus meeting, and this matter was resolved. So in the evening, when my attention was drawn to it by Joy FM, I related to that. I said, well, I get the impression that they were not at because they were not at the joint caucus. Maybe they might have said this, granted this interview before the joint caucus. But then after I had spoken in response to the issues raised by my colleague and how it had been settled at the meeting, then I think they called the Honorable Ayariga, who insisted that in spite of that, they think that something untoward had happened and that they were calling for a parliamentary inquiry. I was wondering where he was coming from. I was wondering where we're coming from. And when is Parliament going to be able to decide on matters and come to a conclusion? So if an individual is not satisfied, then a parliamentary committee should be established to deal with it. And I thought this is what had been happening previously. And let me put on record that when I was asked, I never said I didn't know anything about it. What I said was the process of recruitment. That the process of recruitment, I don't know anything about the process. And indeed, at the board meeting, both the minority leader and I were there when the decision was taken. That the Marshal's Department should go into this business of recruitment. We gave them, in fact, it was the clerk who represented them, but then we called for further and better particulars about what they wanted to do. That is how come we invited the Marshal to be with us, and he briefed us about the paucity of the numbers. One, he alluded to the fact that so many of them had died, so many of them had retired. At the time of the recruitment, the number was about 250. Now it has increased to 275. And that, at the time of the recruitment, the last one that they did, the office complex had not come into use, and that they needed to employ about 50. And we said, given where we were, to be difficult. That is how come Parliament then decided that we will allow them to employ 30 first, and subsequently they will do the 20. So I cannot pretend to be unaware of the decision of the board. What I said was that I'm not aware of the process of recruitment, because it's not for me to look into what the Marshal is doing. That is what I said at the meeting. And I will suggest strongly that the minority that cannot say that he's not aware of the decision that was taken by the board, because we are both there. So after I had spoken, and he insisted that yes, I had spoken, and that there are a few things that are outstanding, so we still insist on an inquiry. I said Parliament cannot be made to go on any wild goose chase. I think Parliament should be serious with itself. And I used maybe a strong sentence that Parliament will not pander to the whims and caprices of individuals, and that will not pander to pedestrianism. I said so, because I thought it was ridiculous. What decision we had come to, what briefing we had received from the Marshal's Department, not anything outlandish, and that a member should insist, who was not with us at the meeting, Should you say, I mean, if you're not at a meeting, the onus falls on you to ask your leadership what transpired. But not knowing what transpired, you go on air and insist that something must be done by Parliament. I thought it was most unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, I believe we should all learn useful lessons from this. It is important for us. In fact, yesterday when we started the meeting, I think the number was about in the region of 100 or so. At the time we were ending, the number had dwindled down to about 42. Even those of them who were with us at the outset, many of them left. So if you are not informed about anything, you go on air and put out a categorical statement. I thought that was most unfortunate. But as the chief whip for the minority is saying, perhaps we can all learn useful lessons, advise ourselves, and to be in attendance during such meetings, especially when other matters of concern will be discussed, including welfare matters, so that you are well equipped and you don't go out there and say anything that will lower the esteem of Parliament. The Speaker, I'm grateful.
Yes, what do you want to say?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, about 6:30 thereabout, I received a phone call from Joy FM. It wasn't even about the security issues in Parliament. It had to do with some issues involving the Guantanamo Bay detainees. That was what they told me they were going to interview me about. But that I should stay on the line because they were having a discussion with the majority leader on the issue of the security in the House. So after he spoke, I didn't even hear his presentation. After he spoke, and the journalist then asked me that having heard him on the security issues in the House, what was my take? And I said, well, for us as a minority, we had a caucus meeting earlier in the day, and at that meeting, some members raised issues about some claim that people were being recruited to provide additional security, and that many of the people who were being recruited were from invisible forces and other forces, and they did not feel...
You are just stating what I said.
Members, order.
And that they didn't feel comfortable, and that they had heard that they had even been sent to Esutuari for training. And because of what they said, leadership promised to take up the matter with the majority leader. And I thought that this matter can be resolved simply by a parliamentary inquiry. That was my limited statement. It was after I spoke. It was after I spoke that the majority leader then explained to me that yes, the matter came to him, but then there was a joint caucus meeting at which I was not present. And during that joint caucus meeting, the issue was discussed and an explanation offered by the marshal. And therefore, he didn't think that there is a need for any form of inquiry and etc. Mr. Speaker, they asked further questions. And I said, well, it is perfectly possible that you have given that approval at the Parliamentary Service Board for recruitment to be carried out, and the process of the recruitment can be conducted in a way that ends up creating room for certain forces to find themselves among the recruited people. So we can all help in an inquiry to establish the background of the people. Mr. Speaker, that was it. But then I took on board his correction that there was a meeting at which an explanation was provided by the parliamentary, the marshal of Parliament. And once we were on air, I mean,
there was additional information that even at that meeting, questions were asked about the background, and those questions were not satisfactorily answered. So yes, there was approval by the Parliamentary Service Board. It was being managed by the Marshal, but the issue still stands that the backgrounds of those who have been recruited has not been established. So, Mr. Speaker, let me also say one or two things regarding the manner in which the leader presented the issues. Mr. Speaker, it is not the case that I am questioning a decision that has been taken by this House on the airwaves. Mr. Speaker, I know the processes in this House. If we have a committee of the whole meeting and take decisions, that's the decision of this House. If during sitting a motion is moved and voted on and a decision is taken, that's the decision of this House. If there is a joint caucus meeting at which there was a briefing, I can accept it, I can reject the briefing. I'm not bound by a briefing that was offered at a joint caucus meeting. It is not a decision of this House. It's not a decision of this House. And my right to speak on that matter cannot be curtailed simply because there was a joint caucus meeting at which a briefing is offered. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't intend to make it an issue. As I indicated, when Joy FM called me, it wasn't so that I'll comment on that matter. Somehow they put me on the spot, and I responded. And I said what I knew. And he also told me things that I might not have known. Order. I said what I knew. And he told me things that I might not have known. And I took that on board. And so, Mr. Speaker, let me indicate that when I spoke yesterday, it was not pursuant to any mischief or any effort to, I was just reporting what happened, and luckily the same matter had been reported to him, and he had even taken measures to allay the fears of honorable members from this side of the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this is just my 5th year in this House. We have come to understand what the protocol is in terms of security to an extent in this House.
Sorry, I didn't hear. You have come to understand what?
What the protocol in terms of security is in this House. We expect to have policemen at some places, sometimes clothes, sometimes not in clothing, and other people. And we have worked with them at least for the 5 years that I'm here. Mr. Speaker, on Saturday when we came here to swear in Right Honorable Speaker as acting president, all of a sudden, we saw a multitude of people wearing a dark green jumpsuit and cap assembling at the top here. They didn't look like military, Air Force, or anything that I know of the armed forces. Nobody made any comment. When we got out, we realized they were being conducted by some officials of parliament to various points that police normally mount that we are aware of. The question started, who are these people? Everybody says, I don't know. Mr. Speaker, we live in an era where nobody should pretend we don't know there's a security problem. You can call it security or insecurity problem. I want to know. If those people are coming here to give me protection, at least I should know. How can you send a security man to my house without my knowledge? Mr. Speaker, it is very interesting that when my whip and majority leader were speaking, it appeared, Mr. Speaker, at a point in time, even leadership were not aware of who those people were. Mr. Speaker, I don't attend a Parliamentary Service Board meeting. I don't have any way of knowing what they've discussed. But I expect that if they take decisions that affect me as a member of Parliament regarding my security, I should know. I should know. We had a minority caucus meeting. Mr. Speaker, this matter was raised. And at that meeting, Mr. Speaker,
the leadership of the minority were not certain as to who those people were. Mr. Speaker, it is also not unusual in this country, in the era in which we are, where certain individuals have arrogated to themselves the right to protect other people. Mr. Speaker, we can't pretend we don't know about these things. Mr. Speaker, in my estimation, if these people were people that Parliament decided, if the police of this country are no longer capable of giving us security, that we needed Parliament to recruit security and train them, that the police cannot give us security, we also need to know. Mr. Speaker, I want to understand this. At what point did leadership inform members that you are going to see certain individuals dressed in a particular way who are coming to augment the security in this house? Was that done? Mr. Speaker, it was not done. So how come something that even leadership only got to know the details yesterday, how could I be accused of knowing something and then yet going on radio to talk about it? Mr. Speaker, my security is first of all my priority. Whatever Parliament does when I'm here to protect me is an additional thing. Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't say much by saying that as far as I'm concerned, I still don't know the identity of those people. The information provided by Marshall, for me, is still scanty until I, as a member of Parliament, I see the list of those people, their name and their pictures, for me to be satisfied that they are not from a certain group of people who will rather come and make me more insecure. Mr. Speaker, I have no reason to believe that the briefing, Marshall gave was listened to. But I agree with the Honorable Ayariga. Was that a resolution in Parliament? The fact that Marshall came to tell us something doesn't mean that it was a House decision, was it? It wasn't. I'm still not convinced that those people are from secure sources that can protect the Parliament of Ghana. I am saying, I'm encouraging leadership. Publish the names and the pictures of those individuals to make me satisfied that they are coming to provide me security rather than make me insecure. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, first, I think we must understand what Parliament as an institution can do and what Parliamentary Service Board is. Parliamentary service is not under Parliament. It is an independent body set up by law to provide services to Parliament. And parliamentary service is headed by the clerk. When parliamentary service is doing recruitment, they don't have to report to Parliament. Do you know how the clerks came here? Those are the committee. Did they publish their names to us? Let's not use partisan considerations to embarrass the institution that we are part of. With due deference to all members. Honourable members, when did the police come here? Before the police came here, Parliament had this security. The police were brought in by Honorable Doyajaho, I think in 2015 December. So Parliament security is not new. It's not a new institution that is being set up. But the most critical thing for me is not raising issues with matters you don't understand with Parliament, but going to discuss them as if something untoward is happening. You have the opportunity to speak if you wish to, but the rules are that when the speaker is speaking, you keep quiet. Honorable Deputy Speaker, you want to speak, I'll rest my.
Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker,
I apologize for coming in late, but I met the House discussing this issue, and I was wondering how it came about. But my attention was drawn that a member of the leadership from the majority side raised the issue. Well, I've been prompted that as a matter of importance. Mr. Speaker, this House has been confronted with security issues for some time now. But the House is not involved in the recruitment of the employees of the parliamentary service. It is usually done by the Parliamentary Service Board. The Judicial Service recruits employees for the Judicial Service and they service the judiciary. It's the same for Parliament. The only link is that the Parliamentary Service Board includes some members of Parliament, mostly from the leadership. And so the leadership sits there not just as representatives of Parliament, but also as the members of the Parliamentary Service. That is the practice. We have requested a number of times for the Ghana Police Service to beef up the strength of the police service in the presence of Parliament. The House, I recall, last year even requested that the police service should provide security cover for members of Parliament, not just as details in their official premises, but as they go around performing their duties. Mr. Speaker, the police service have always complained about the paucity of numbers, and so they've not been able to meet the demand of the House. I recall last year we wanted up to about more than 80, but they were able to give about 35. Mr. Speaker, I think that was the reason why the Parliamentary Service decided to recruit private security to augment the number. Apart from that, a number of the private security who are members of the Parliamentary Service have gone on retirement, and some really even passed away, some on duty in this House. And so there was an urgent need for this process to be put in place to recruit some employees of the Parliamentary Service to assist the Ghana Police Service and the national security to try to have a handle on the security issues of the House. So I was informed as a member in attendance that the Parliamentary Service was going to recruit employees. So I thought that the problem is that we didn't trigger the usual channels of communication. And I think that is what has led to all this. But I want to take this opportunity to appeal to members not to be taking these matters to the public. These are matters that we can easily handle in the House. And members could do so through leadership. It's not everything that we have to do outside the House. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the radio discussions. It's about 2 days now. Well, members took issue with the fact that they were not informed, and the usual nature of the Ghanaian, a lot of suspicion and lack of trust, which is a serious challenge to our development, and we need to work on it. Lack of suspicion, I should say too much rumor mongering. I now understand why in the Achampon regime they had to pass a law against rumor mongering. You know, it's not as for the rumor, there's no problem. It's the mongering that there's problem. And you can see that this issue itself, the rumor is not the problem. It's a mongering, because after the rumor, yes, there's lack of information. And so yesterday when they called the meeting, usually you don't call a committee of the whole for such a matter. Well, this is information to be shared. There is no decision to be taken. And that's why it was called as a joint caucus, so that some information will be given to members. And so I think that should have been the end of it, and that members could have gone further if they had any doubts with the information that was given by the Marshal, to ask for further clarification, either as a House or as individuals. The Marshal is readily available. The clerk is there. The office is open. There are many other members that you can get this information from. But to allow the media to push us to a corner and for us to try to raise suspicion about the way we conduct matters in the House is affecting the image and reputation and dignity of the House. And we need to be a bit more careful in the way we handle these matters. I stood up earlier on because I didn't want some of these things to come out from the Speaker himself. I think that we should let sleeping dogs lie. It's not something that should be seen with partisan eyes. It's something that we should try to improve upon on information flows. And I will not go into details about that area, but I think maybe we should meet more often at a committee of the whole or joint caucus to share this information. Again, I want to plead that leadership is a very difficult position to hold. Very, very difficult position. And so when information comes from leadership, either in a committee of the whole or joint caucus, and any member is not satisfied, the member is entitled to approach the leader for further information or clarification. It's very, very, very important. As we move out to wash, the usual phrase, our dirty linen outside, it becomes a big problem for the House. And I'm trying to plead with members to let's hasten slowly, because we are here together for the betterment of Ghana, not for ourselves. And I believe that the leaders do everything to try to make members comfortable to be able to execute this onerous duty of representing the good people of Ghana. And so we should not try to downplay it. We should not try to undermine each other. We should not run at each other, because we'll be doing so at our own peril. And so I'm pleading that we let this end here, and anybody who wants further information can get that from the parliamentary service or from the leadership outside the floor of the House. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader. After listening to the second deputy speaker, I think there's nothing more to say unless you're going to.
Speaker, I believe that the second deputy speaker has done great extrapolation of the issues that have been raised, and the conclusion that he came to, that we should, if there is lack of information, we should go to appropriate quarters. And when we have board meetings, it is for us, leadership, representing the caucuses, to transmit the information to our caucuses. Failing that, we can have these joint caucus meetings that we had yesterday to transmit the information. It's just information transmission. Decisions are not taken there. And I remember at the very outset yesterday, the minority leader himself was even asking what we're going to provide as a house. Because indeed, we closed, I think after 4. And he said we had kept them till that long and we needed to provide something. And in a light vein, I said to him that this is a joint caucus meeting and not a committee of the whole, and that the caucuses are supposed to provide for that meeting. So they should bring something from the caucus allocation, the minority caucus allocation. I'll bring something from the majority caucus allocation, and then we feed colleagues here. That was said in a lighter vein. No decisions are taken as such a meeting because it's supposed to be for information transmission. Mr. Speaker, I think, again, people should understand that the internal security of every parliament is in the hands of the Marshal's Department. Every parliament, everywhere. In some jurisdictions, they don't call them marshals. They call them sergeants at arms. That is what obtains. The Speaker, a policeman cannot enter this chamber and conduct any business. If there's any matter of indiscipline that the Speaker will want to address, if any member has to be walked out, bundled out, so to speak, it is in the bosom of the marshal. They have to act on the instructions of the Speaker, not policemen. And in our offices, the Marshal Department are supposed to post persons, maybe on each floor. So if there's any untoward behavior on the part of any stranger, it is for them to sort them out. The Speaker, so that is the business of the Marshal's Department. They are in charge of our internal security. Indeed, technically speaking, the boss of the police here is under the control of the sergeant at arms. That's how it is everywhere in this world. And I'm happy my colleague is saying that he served in this parliament for quite a long time. Not more than 5 years. but governments, you're supposed to know this. You're supposed to know this. I mean, that is how the arrangement is. I think that we should not allow for private security people to be in this house. I remember in 2001, when we were posted to the leadership village, and Parliament at that time had engaged some private security persons. They rather broke into our facilities and stole items from our bungalows, beginning with Honorable Ajay Mensah, Ike Ajay Mensah, who at that time was the deputy minority leader. They broke into his house. Then the Honorable Moses Asaga was the second to follow. I was the third. Fortunately for me, I had not put anything there. There was nothing there apart from refrigerators and gas cookers. When they entered my place and there was nothing, they removed the burners and the sockets. We saw they declined. They denied that they were the people who had done so. But then we saw the marks of their boots in the dusty environment. That place had remained unkempt for quite a while because I had not even moved in. So we reported and said to us that the Marshal's Department should be strengthened. We didn't want any private security. Then we moved quickly to install burglar proofs in those facilities. Mr. Speaker, so this House has resolved not to do that, that we rather should strengthen the Marshal's Department. And that exactly is what happened. As I said, I don't want to litigate this matter, except to say that if we have to stretch this matter, it will then mean that every employee in this house shall have to be subjected to, some audit. Is that what we want to do? Is that what we want to do as a parliament? I don't think that is the import of this recruitment. So, colleagues, if we are not sure about anything, let's ask the appropriate questions to the appropriate personalities for further clarifications. But rushing to radio stations and so wouldn't help the situation at all. It would rather help to lower the esteem of Parliament, which already is suffering. And so we should be careful what we say, what we take out there. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Honourable members, it is 20 minutes past 1. Honourable Majority Leader, I'll hear from you. At this stage, you have exhausted what is on the other paper. And so, if you move the motion for adjournment.
Speaker, I want to believe that we are satisfied with the business that has been transacted this day, and that members are also happy with the conclusions that we have come to, especially on this very matter, and that we all learn our lessons. With that, Mr. Speaker, I want to move that this House adjourns until tomorrow, Thursday, the 1st day of February 2018 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. The Speaker, so move.
Yes, Honourable Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion and to urge the Majority Leader to bring the bills, not to wait for the tail end of the meeting to come and choke us with business. I second the motion.
The motion has been moved and seconded for the consideration of the House. All in favor of the motion say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. The House is adjourned until Thursday, the 1st of February 2018 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.